If you caught what John Hickey said, let's now catapult all the way up to the year 2009. Obama, in his cabinet, placed two socialists. The first one was Mrs. Liebman, and the second one was a climate czar. Her name, Carol Browner, and Fox News picked up on it.
Until last week, Carol Browner was listed as a leader of a socialist group called Commission for a Sustainable World Society. And this group advocates global governance, believing that rich countries like the United States have an obligation to shrink their economies and their energy use to limit global warming.
Not only is she a socialist, but she's connected to the Socialist International, the same one Tony Blair is. She's connected to the Center for American Progress. Under Clinton, she was the EPA. Are you connecting the dots? Socialism and occultism work hand in hand. Crowley actually told the Russian government that he would work to help them destroy America. And a lot what Crowley did goes back to the 30s, even with the connection of the vice president to be Wallace. Another person I came in contact with is Elizabeth Dilling. She had a crusade against communism in the 30s. While she was in Russia, she came across a Soviet guidebook. In the guidebook, she found this: our world revolution will start with China and will end with the United States. And she listed many people who were socialists. The one person she listed was Eleanor Roosevelt. For the first time ever, while Eleanor was still alive, she met with Mikhail Gorbachev. Now listen to this. At a speech at the 70th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, Mikhail Gorbachev said, in October 1917, we parted with the old world, rejecting it once and for all. We are now moving towards a new world, a world of communism. We shall never turn off that road. Now listen to this. Mikhail Gorbachev said this: Barack Obama will rebuild us and bring perestroika to the United States. He also called for Russia to vote for Putin, and he called for the West to take Russia serious as a partner. Norman Mattoon Thomas was a leading American socialist, pacifist, six-time presidential candidate for the Socialistic Party of America. Norman once said this in a 1944 speech: the American people will never knowingly adopt socialism, but under the name of liberalism, they will adopt every fragment of the socialistic program, until one day America will be a socialistic nation, without even knowing it, how it happened. He went on to say, I no longer need to run as a presidential candidate for the Socialistic Party. The Democratic Party has adopted our platform. A quote from Thomas Jefferson: the democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who are not. A old saying, you are a slave to the spoken or a master to the non-spoken. On that day of history when Obama and Joe the plumber met, it wasn't that Joe was a certified plumber. It was what Obama said to Joe, that we are down the road into socialism.
My attitude is that if the economy is good for folks from the bottom up, it's going to be good for everybody. If you've got a plumbing business, you're going to be better off if you've got a whole bunch of customers who can afford to hire you. And right now, everybody's so pinched that business is bad for everybody. And I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everybody.
To protect its interest, the Israelites in 2008 shot for the first time an experimental warhead that can and will reach anywhere in the old empire of Persia, or what they call modern Iran. There's something you need to know when it comes to Persia. Iran is not mentioned by name in the Bible, whereas Persia is, 29 times to be exact. At a prophecy meeting recently, this tidbit came to light. 28 times Persia is mentioned as allies with Israel. However, on the 29th time, we see a different Persia. It all started in 1935 when Persia's name was changed to Iran. Things went well up to 1979 when the Shah was expelled from the land and the Ayatollah Khomeini took power. Israel seen the handwriting on the wall months before the United States did and moved out all the important documents from the embassy. A hostage crisis developed, and America went under siege and was locked up for 444 days under the Jimmy Carter presidency. The sad thing was, America didn't see it coming, and it was in a mad rush to rip up all the important documents when the embassy was broken into. To restore most of the lost information, the young Iranians spent hours and days pasting all the documents back together again to find the secrets that America had found out about them. This is where Persia makes its break as Israel's ally. In the Bible, the 29th and final time mentioned is this very important thing here, is that Persia, which is Iran, is now allied with someone else. This is where we pick up what Ezekiel 38 says about that 29th time. That missile being launched by Israel in 2008 has all to do with Ezekiel 38. Chapter 38 has to do with an invasion against Israel, which comes out of the north. Verse 2 states, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, and tell them, I'm against thee. Where is Magog found? They tell us in Siberia. This Scythian people moved into Russia about 1000 BC and inhabited lands of the Black Seas between Danube and the Don River. The two events came to occur, or had to occur, to transform this prophecy into a current possibility. The first thing is the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 and Russia's revolution of 1917. Today it is an official, that is, Russia, an anti-God state. What makes Ezekiel 38 so interesting is the mentioning of Russia and Persia now as allies. In the modern world, what do we see? Russia and Iran teaming up against Israel. That is why Israel showed the world they are not second class when it comes to hitting a target. Strategy and to outwit their opponent has always been the communist plan. Reagan pushed to topple the USSR. It only lasted for a short time, but it left America with a $4 trillion deficit. President Hoover once said, Blessed are the young, for they shall inherit the national debt. People forgot. Russia plays to death. Anything to win equals checkmate. April 28th of 2008 was such a move. It made headlines in the New York Times. In essence, what was said, Russia and Iran have allied. CNN, with Beck, invited Joel C. Rosenberg live. Joel said, in 2,500 years since Ezekiel 38 was written, Russia and Iran, which was Persia, never had allied or an alliance until today. These big conglomerates, like New York Times, CNN, have not the slightest clue what's coming down. The big media wonders while Russia flexes their muscle.
In Moscow today, a show of military might that we haven't seen since the days of the Soviet Union. Tanks and missile launchers rolling through Red Square, fighter jets roaring overhead, in a Victory Day parade celebrating the end of World War II.
For the first time in history, the USSR teams up with Iran. Israel, 2008, makes a weapon that reaches Iran. Russia's strategic move on April the 28th, 2008 may have been a surprise to the world, but Ezekiel 38 said Russia's strategic move, teaming up with Iran/Persia, is a knockout for Israel. The capitalist America must be eliminated. The sad thing is, the answers are found in the Bible. Since not many are reading, God put what a prophet stated 2,500 years ago on the front page of New York Times. Do you recall President Bush speaking about the big idea? Well, listen to this. Prince Charles, March the 6th, 1996 on CNN, said that his sons and him were implanted with microchips, RFIDs, in the right hand. You need to go to Revelations and read what it speaks about the right hand. And then at the end of 2008, Britain's Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, in a speech said, now is the time to build a global society. Britain, the United States, Europe are key to the foregoing of a new world order. Something else you might find interesting, Wall Street Journal said what's happening on 1/20/2009 is Washington's Woodstock. It's going to be an inaugural rock fest. The Vatican, now getting into it, issued a full and official forgiveness to the late John Lennon for his comment, the Beatles are more famous than Jesus Christ. Now let me ask you, what does a church have to do with a man who is occultic? You can go to my website and you can see John Lennon giving the devil salute with one of the other Beatles giving the sign of 666. In closing, does it surprise you to find out how much the music industry has affected, one way or the other, politics of the world? Like I mentioned, Clinton, who rocked the vote back in the 90s, Bush, who invited Ozzy Osbourne to the White House, and Obama's Woodstock. The song I'm going to play you next was masterminded by a person named Will I Am. And this is how it sounds going forward.
It was a creed written into the founding documents that declared the destiny of a nation. Yes, we can. It was whispered by slaves and abolitionists as they blazed the trail toward freedom. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
It was sung.
It was sung by immigrants who struck out from distant shores, pioneers who pushed westward against unforgiving wilderness. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
It was the call of workers organized, women who reached for the ballots, a president who chose to move.
However, when you backward mass this song by Will I Am, which are numerous musicians working on this particular piece of music, the lyrics are completely different than what's going forward. I'm going to break the music into two different sound bites, the beginning and the end, so you get a gist of what this thing sounds like and who it's talking about. The song is called Yes We Can. Saul Alinsky, who was the founder of Developing Community Projects in Chicago and Acorn, one of his disciples was Senator Obama. Saul wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. He dedicated the book to Lucifer because he was the first radical of mankind who won, he said, his own kingdom. Does it surprise you then to hear Yes We Can says thank you Satan going in reverse? In Isaiah 14, 12, and 13, it talks about the 5 I wills of Satan and what he will do. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. Are you ready to meet the Messiah, the Christ of Calvary? Or are you going to wait for the one world government, because it is here? It's your choice. Give us a call.